What's up, everyone? It's your boy Scott. Welcome to the Scott Report, and today I'm here to talk about episode 1 of Terminator Zero and overall my first impressions of that episode. This series is currently airing on Netflix, locked in at 8 episodes, and this anime is brought to you by Production IG, so you know them. They are the cream of the crop when it comes to sci-fi. You know, they have done Psycho Pass, they've done Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex, they've done Genro, Heavenly Delusion, Kaiju number 8. Just their resume is just like stacks and stacks high when it comes to actually, doing sci-fi. So I was ecstatic when I found out that they were actually doing this Terminator series. And we're also in a moment where more of the well-known properties from back in the day are kind of getting a reboot or more like a resurgence. Like a couple of years ago, we had Prey for Predator, which was pretty good. Most recently, just a few weeks ago, we had Alien Romulus, which kind of kickstarted the Alien franchise back to where it needs to be. And now we have this one with Terminator. And one thing that they're doing in these things that you will notice is that they're actually going back to when these products were great. Like, for example, Romulus takes place at a certain time. Predator takes place at a certain time, and this Terminator series that's on Netflix actually takes place in 1997 in Japan. So it's an interesting setup that we have with that there. This series is 8 episodes long, and it is about the life of a man by the name of Dr. Malcolm Lee, who is developing an artificial intelligence to actually combat Skynet. Now, whether that's a good idea or not, I guess we'll find out later. But the overall premise of this series is that the day before Judgment Day is supposed to hit, Mr. Lee finds himself and his family being pursued by a robot assassin that we know as the Terminators, T-100s, T-1000s, or what have you, and also a mysterious soldier from the future. At the future in this time in this story is 2022, also goes back in time to protect them. So straight up Terminator lore to the core, with a T-series hunting someone to try to keep Skynet's future, while it's somebody else from that same destroyed future coming back to find somebody. In most cases, it usually ends up being somebody that they're related to, that they're going back to try to save. Everybody is just trying to work to change fate, because of course there is no fate but the one that you make for ourselves. Now, Terminator 2 is fantastic. Terminator 2 is probably one of my top action movies of all time. Easily top 3. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. I must say that I did watch this dubbed. And the reason for that is because it's Terminator. I know it takes place in Japan. I know it's anime. But I watched it dubbed because, I don't know, it just kind of felt better to watch this type of series dubbed. And there's also, has more of that cyberpunk feel to it. Even in the first episode, even in small glimpses, there was, gracious violence. There was profanity. And it's kind of felt like a throwback to the 90s and 80s animes. People from my age, when you went at a Blockbuster or some video store and you saw something that you thought was a cartoon, and then once you turn it on and start watching it, you're like, whoa, this is way more than a cartoon. This is bloody, this is violent, this is crazy, this is adult. And it kind of brings that feel back, similar to while we're on that same subject of cyberpunk. Remember, Edge Runners kind of had that same kind of ultra violent type of feel, but at the same time, this series is kind of in its own lane, because what I'm getting from the first episode, this seems like it's going to be more of a personal story about a man and his family and how they're dealing with everything, versus it just straight up being, somebody hunting down a Terminator. Now, if this was about the Connors, if this was about, John Connor, Sarah Connor, or somebody like that, I would want this to straight up be balls to the wall action, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case with that one, this series, and that's fine. That's okay. It is more of a slow burn from what I was expecting when I first watched it, but I must say I really did enjoy the first episode, especially when you get into mainly the dynamic of, Lee and his family. Of course, again, he has children, and he's plagued by nightmares. He just wakes up just seeing Judgment Day and everything just blowing up around him. And he's doing everything in his power. He's working restlessly night and day to try to stop this from happening, but at the cost of the attention of his family. He's sitting down eating breakfast with his kids and things like that and playing with them. And then he's like, okay, I got to go to work now. And they're like, no, Dad, you're supposed to take us to the park today. What the hell are you doing? Oh, of course, you're going back to work yourself at work again. So there is that dynamic because especially like when it comes to like his son, I believe, who's probably the oldest, he's a genius in his own right, but he kind of has that resentment. It's like, well, dad is always running off doing work again while we're just here. But you also have to look at things on the side of Malcolm in a sense that he is trying to save his family by restlessly trying to find a way to stop this terrible future that he keeps dreaming about from happening. Does it make him a bad dad? I mean, in some sense, because, he's never there for his children because he's working and working and working. But at the same time, he's being a good dad because he's trying to shield them from saying, hey, everything is about to go to hell in a little while. So I'm trying to make sure that doesn't happen for you guys. But as a child, of course, they want the love and affection and the presence of their parents. And when that isn't happening, that can make resentment, that can make anger, especially when you take into consideration that when Malcolm goes to work, he's working like with a robot. And one of the children actually mentioned, dad goes to work with these robots all day, but we bring home like a robot pet, like a toy or something, and he's angry, like, get this out of the house. Like he has some type of like anger towards the robots, and you can tell why, because it's the rise of the machines. We're probably facing that now with Alexa and all that, but again, that's getting a little bit off script. But it's like the children kind of see it as a double standard because it's like he goes to work and work with these machines all day, but we can't have fun with toys. Also, with this being said in Japan, it's a little bit of a different dynamic than what we're used to as well, because if you look at how like the Terminator story and everything is in America, is more like the rise of the machines, Skynet, these robots are going to hunt us down and enslave us, versus like in Japan, robots as butlers, maids, storekeepers, and things like that are a little bit more common in this series. There's still a little bit of that prejudice there between people, but for the most part, everybody's pretty cool with it until they won't be when we get to that dark future. But yeah, so there's like little things that I liked about that as well. Just seeing a different side of things than what we know about the Terminator story, that was really good. Now, as far as the action goes, it wasn't really that much, but one thing that it did well is showing that sense of dread, especially like when we go into the future and see the state of humanity or where they are, where the machines have taken over everything. And you feel that sense of dread. You feel that sense of hopelessness. And you have that terror, like when the young lady at the beginning of the series is getting chased around by the Terminator. I mean, it really did feel tense and intense. Like when you seen what he did to everybody else, it's like a guy sitting there with like insides all out and stuff like that. So that sense of dread was there. Humanity basically being an endangered species and fighting to stop, something that is for all intents and purposes invincible. And then you take into consideration that they had the ability to go back in time and stop humanity before they even get even lower than they are right now. So it's very compelling. As far as action, it didn't have too much. The very first scene is very action packed with this young lady by the name of Aiko, who we're going to be getting to know a little bit more as the series goes along. She's trying to get intel while also escaping the Terminator so she can perhaps build something to stop the Terminators. Or it's not really a spoiler because we already got to it in like the top of the video that she's going to go back in time herself to help Malcolm. And usually, just like I said a little bit earlier at the top, when you deal with time travel stuff like this, like Aiko's probably like a descendant or somebody's kid or something from back then. I don't know if I missed it or not. Maybe she was already somebody from 97 and now she's older. I know it was a girl who was around who was like bringing the kids the toys that the dad was upset about that the kids had, the robot. But I missed if that was actually Aiko or not, because 97 and 2022 isn't that far away. I mean, it is. I mean, give or take, it's like 20 something years, but still, it could very well still have been that same character. But overall, I think they did a very good job, and I think they hit a lot of good points. Like when they showed that Terminator, when they went to like Skynet and they showed like the Terminators being built, and we got the iconic dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. All that just sent chills down my spine. Again, as far as just thinking this is straight up action, it does seem like it's going to be more family based. It's going to be more, I would say, maybe along psychological or thought based, because we're dealing with a man and his family and how they're going to deal with things. But episode 1 overall just kind of had like a slow burn, and then things pick up near the end. And as it goes along, I'm going to keep watching to see what happens. But yeah, overall, that was my thoughts on Terminator Zero Episode 1. A very solid first opening. I have to watch, of course, the other 7 episodes to see how I feel overall. But as a first impressions, I do recommend you check it out. Just because it's something nostalgic, it's something good, it's something different, and it's something finally being done right about the Terminator franchise. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get about here, guys. I hope you guys liked my first impressions of Terminator Zero. So, as always, if you liked the video, go ahead and drop it a like. And if you want to hear more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, where I used to say there's not a shortage of content for you guys to indulge on this channel. But, hey, we're back. We're rebooting. We're trying to do everything that we can. Just hit that bell notification so when I do drop a video, you will be notified. And I hope you come back. I hope you tell 2 friends and so on and so on. And one thing I always say, and I still say, you guys can be anywhere on YouTube right now, but you chose to listen to me. I really appreciate that, so thanks for stopping by. On that note, it's your boy Scott signing out. See you soon.